Hey, we
Good.
should I should have known, man, that you'd have this whiteboard behind you with, a to-do
Oh
list
yeah.
that's a mile high. You're a busy dude. I don't know how you juggle it all, Jamal. Holy cow.
I'm gonna put it up a little bit. Yeah, man, just staying busy. That's about it. Just trying to work. That's
Love
about
it.
it.
Man,
What's
thanks
going
so
on?
much for doing this. Just man, it's always good to see you. God, we were hanging out. I can't believe it was 5 years ago that we were down there in Atlanta. It was a long time, half of a decade.
Oh man.
Um,
Yeah, that was crazy. That was 5 years ago. Wow. A lot's
yeah.
happened in 5 years.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear about it. But I mean, it's incredible everything you have going on with your family, with your businesses. I mean, you were so unbelievably candid about everything you're dealing with after all these collisions, but you look great. I mean, we talked for the blood and guts behind me there, talking to Shannon Sharp, Ben Coates. You had me in stitches on some of
Oh yeah.
those Shannon stories. Those were
Oh
great.
yeah, that was awesome, man. It's good to see Shannon doing what he's doing now, and it just shows that's how he was anyway in the locker room. So what he's doing right now is just being him, and it's good. You know, the piece that you did and everything that was awesome.
Hey, no, I appreciate you, Jamal. I know it was pretty raw. I mean, you were so open and honest about. I mean, I think a lot of guys are probably dealing with the aftershock and the aftermath of collisions and the way you ran. It's just so vivid in all of our memories. I mean, every carry, it was life and death for you. I mean, you blasted through people. You took their souls away. I mean, we can start wherever you want, but like, just how's life today? I mean, these last 5 years, do you feel good? Did you feel like you're in a good place? Because it was, you weren't really sure when we were hanging out down there in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I feel pretty good. Just dealing and hanging with the fam and keeping the kids going and trying to grow a business and well, a couple businesses, trying to grow that and been doing a little bit of traveling, with that and just staying busy, man. And that's about it. And still staying up with the old team with the Ravens and we actually, we did the Bullies of Baltimore. I think you saw that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, which we had been anticipating that coming out and everything. But they did a great piece on that and everything. And I can say that, watching that brought back a whole lot of memories of the things we used to do and just how the environment was on the field and just how violent it was, back then. And it seems like it's so far, just so long ago, but it really isn't, it's just how
Yeah.
the game has changed and everything. So, but I've been doing good, man. I can't complain. I can't complain. Everything's looking up.
So what businesses are you running now? I remember you were doing so much at once then,
Yeah.
and taking on new projects. What's your world like, your day to day right now?
All right. Now I got a company called Buyer Connected Incorporated where we go in and do fixtures and installations, for big box retail centers like Lowe's and Total Wine, Target, companies like that. We'll go in and do resets or whatever. So we got teams pretty much around the country to handle that. And we also do a lot of logistics as well, storage, warehousing, final mile delivery type stuff. So still in the logistics space. And then my other company is Southeast Exhibits and Events uh,
Yes, right.
where we're doing mostly trade show exhibits. So building out trade show exhibits and booths. Luckily, I got good partners in the space, and Buyer Connected, my partner, Robert Cuton, who's actually my CEO as well. And, really helped with some of my deficiencies, as far as, I do have some of the same issues we talked about, 5 years ago. But having good partners and having good people in your corner really helps to get around that or whatever. And I feel like I got some good partners in Southeast Exhibits, Brandon Keena and Art Caruso. They're in the New Jersey area. But in my case, we can you got to go out, you got to make money, right? You got to find a way to, feed the kids and give them what they want and just have a good quality of life, and that's really what's important. And, having good partners and like teammates, that's a big plus, and that really helps drive the businesses and everything else. So I don't have to do as much, but at the same time, I am pretty much heavily involved in things that's going on in the business. So,
and you're able to scratch that competitive itch. If I remember right, you really opened up on like you lose those 70, 80,000 screaming fans just cheering you on. Like every player just has to struggle with that being removed from your life when you're just ejected into mainstream society. It's a totally
yeah.
different existence, a totally different world. If I remember, I mean, you're a competitive guy too, so maybe being in businesses and wanting to kick everybody's ass in a different corporate world achieves that. But are you able to still kind of
Yeah.
scratch that itch?
Yeah. That's it, man. That's what keeps me going. Being able to go out and get those wins as far as those sales or whatever, and bringing on new clients and things of that nature. That's winning, and that really, helps feed that competitive spirit that I've always had, and I apply a lot of things that I actually acquired or took from football. A lot of the coaches talks and everything else, and the adversity that we went through, in certain seasons and everything else, and the injuries and the hurts and just the losses, the wins, certain things like that. It all comes back, when you got that team atmosphere and you get that call from a client and they say, hey, we got some new business, or you've been working on a client and they call you and you win some new business. It's very gratifying, and it really does feed that competitive spirit. Yeah, big time.
Yeah. Man, and oh my God, that documentary was great. Tony Saragusa had me in stitches. Like, just what a character. R.I.P. Goose. But like when I totally forgot how he took Rich Gannon out of that AFC Championship game, and he was saying on the
Oh
radio
man.
show, like, I don't know why Rich is complaining. I lay on top of my wife once a week, and she doesn't complain, and she's 5 foot tall.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Man, I swear that, we had that whole shoot when we was doing it, man, just being around him and, just not him, but the other players as well. But, a lot of us haven't seen each other, in a while. And Goose is one of them. I haven't seen him in a good while. And he's just a great guy. He used to be actually my locker mate at the football games. So when we actually played, in stadiums or whatever, he was right next to me. So I got a chance to hear him every game that we played. I got a chance to listen to him, and he's he was an older guy. He was a veteran. When I came in, he was an older guy and gave me a lot of knowledge, and just a great guy, man, just all around, and somebody that you didn't want to mess with, and he was very humorous and outspoken, and he said what was on his mind, and it just showed. Every setting that we got a chance to get in, he just stole the show. You know what I mean? And it showed, on that show. Yeah.
Is there anything that didn't make the Bullies of Baltimore that can make this happy hour that you can share? Whether it's Tony or anybody else from that team, you had a lot of characters.
Well, I think that from my standpoint, in sitting in that group setting, doing that shoot, I was the young guy. I was the rookie. I was the rookie that got a chance to get involved. And got a chance to be a part of that. Of that team and that season and the Super Bowl and everything else. But looking back at it, I think we actually talked about it on the set, but just with me, Ray, Rod Woodson, Shannon Sharp, we would all get together every Thursday and go out, whatever. We'll go out, have some drinks, eat, whatever, hang out. And I just noticed like every single time it went from Thursday with all of us, and then Friday is just me and Ray. And of course, we got to travel, and we got, if we travel, we had games or whatever. But I noticed that every time, we would get a limo and go out, I would always get stuck with being the last to get dropped off, which means I was the one that had to pay the tab. So it was every single time. It was 2-3 days a week. I'm paying $1,000 for a limo because we're out all night and all day, So, and I was just like, man, like, these guys, they was setting me up, and that was just one of the times. But through that, we got a chance to get together and talk and just go through things and how we felt about the game we just played to the game was going into. And I can remember, in one of those settings, and Ray, we was sitting back, and Ray just went through every single game that we had left. And he just started naming them off. And he's like, oh, this team, oh, they don't stand a chance. We're going to smash them. Oh, this team, oh, we should beat them by at least 14 points. Oh, this team, we should. And he just went to, and then he said, I don't see us getting beat. Like we're going to the Super Bowl, and this was earlier on, but that just, honestly, just being in that environment, being with those guys, hanging out with those guys, it instilled pretty much everything in me that I took forward for the next 9 years, So it was great being around some great veterans, great players, and soaking in that knowledge, But even with Goose, man, I just like Goose was just hilarious. Like even during the game, like getting ready for a game, usually you're focused, you're thinking about what you got to do, and he's just like just up like just another day at the office, So, but I took a lot from that, and took it on throughout my career, And those guys, I think those guys made me. I can say that.
I mean, you were the missing piece for that team. I was so fascinated to hear, even Brian Billick admit, I've got this huge ego, right? Like he wants to throw the ball. He comes from Minnesota, and it took him swallowing his ego and realizing, look, Tony Banks just is turning it over too much. Let's get Trent in there. He ain't going to turn it over, and we'll just have him hand the ball to Jamal. And let's just beat teams down. Like, let's have the offense reflect what the defense is in terms of just bruising and bloodying people.
And that was, and that was it, and honestly, that was Jonathan Ogden, Ray Lewis, Shannon Sharp, Trent going to Billick and saying, hey, look, this is what we got to do. And Billick listened, and he had to bite the bullet and say, hey, look, this is what it is. This is what we got to do. And I just remember it was like, hey, look, here we go. We're going to hand the ball off. You're going to take 25 carries a game. And, Trent's not going to make mistakes, hopefully. And we're going to hit Shannon Sharp, and take what they give us, and let our defense play ball. And that was the mentality, man. And me and Ray, we were so close. It was just like he was on defense and I was on offense, but we had the same mentality. So, when I was on the field, he was standing, I could see on the sideline, he's not sitting down, he's standing up and watching, in the same way. When we came off the field and the defense was on, I was standing there and, just watching because we would get together, that night or whatever and just talk through it, and just we fed each other. And that was, I think, the driving force on our offense and our defense, that year and even going forward. Yeah.
So we've got a good mix here. We've got a couple Bills fans, in New Hampshire, Buffalo. Dave, Bill, you guys have any questions for Jamal here?
Well, actually, I had one. You just mentioned it was interesting that the players went up to Billick and said, "Hey, this is what we got to do," and he listened. I was wondering how often do the players do that, and then how successful are they? How many times do the coaches actually take that advice and say, "Okay, that makes sense," or they say, "Hey, I'm a coach, I'm going to do it my way," and do their thing?
Well, I think that, what resulted in that is the fact that we had a real veteran team. We had a lot of veterans on that team, and Billick was one of those coaches that he let the veterans pretty much run the team. So I think that, by him being that kind of coach, a player's coach, and just expecting you to be a professional, I think that he had to be the same way when those vets came to him and said, "Hey, look, let's try this out and just give it a try." And there it was, and he basically took that, and that just shows what type of coach he really was. He had a big ego, but at the same time, he still was a player's coach and listened to his players and what they thought. So that was big, and I would run through a brick wall for him, and I think any other player would as well.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Then when you hear that the players coach, and that seems like it's a really big deal and really important that they would listen to the players and react that way. So that's actually really cool. It's interesting to hear that they had that much influence, that the coaches would listen to that, and it was actually pretty successful. So you guys knew what you were talking about.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. It was. And you had guys like Shannon Sharp and Ray Lewis and even Rod. These guys are students of the game. So they had been playing for a while. Well, Ray was a little younger, but at the same time, they knew the game. And they got to go out and fight the battle, and we had the chemistry, we had what it took. It was just, hey, look, we got to play these cards a different way. And Billick took it, and we rolled it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Jamal, thanks for doing this. This is really cool.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah, I guess been maybe a student of history a little bit, or sports history, and I was looking up. You went to Tennessee, which I'd forgotten, but yeah, I mean, I guess I wanted to ask about a little bit with the NIL, the name, image, likeness. I mean, I think especially SEC football, it's basically professional sports, and I just felt like college football players, especially at that level, should be paid, and I think the NIL just makes a lot of sense. And I guess maybe your perspective on the NIL, and maybe some stories about, I know you played with Peyton Manning. I guess I was looking up, sorry, this is a long question, but I was looking up in 98, I guess you guys won the championship, but you were hurt that year, and how that was like, what that was like, being out for the season, and were you still, connected with the team? And I guess Coach Fulmer was the coach. Maybe just talk about that Tennessee experience, and did it feel like the SEC was like a pro game? Was it, when you got to the NFL, was it like, this is kind of like playing in the SEC, because it's, the teams there are just such a high level and such high level
Right.
play. And I went to Tennessee once, and that stadium is bigger than a lot of NFL stadiums. And just maybe talk about your experience at Tennessee and what that was like, and some of that background.
Well, yeah. Well, NIL, to answer your first question, NIL, I think it's a great thing. It should have been put in place. I think there's a lot of things that they need to do to kind of tweak it. But I think what it does is it keeps the talent also in school. So you're not such in a rush to leave. So therefore, you kind of keep the balance, in school as far as the competitiveness. And that's not just from a football standpoint. That's at basketball, baseball, pretty much all sports. And I think that that's a good thing. But I do feel that as far as the transfer portal piece of it, where a guy can, somebody comes in and say, hey, we got a $10 million NIL deal for you if you switch, or if you get in the transfer portal and come play with us. I don't really agree with that because these kids are, I think when I got to college, I was 17 years old. And I can only imagine having $10 million or $3 million at 17 years old. 18, 19, these guys, they can't really make solid decisions, like that. And when you put money into it, it kind of makes it whereas now it's all about money. And, I just know playing this game, growing up in high school, even rec ball, I love the game. I love to play football, and never did that love really get tampered with it never got tampered with until the money came into the equation. So then it's, hey, I can't get enough carries because I might hit these incentives, and you can't really just be you, and that's when you notice that it really becomes a business. But I think that with NIL now, that these kids, they're kind of getting a early lesson on money and how it works, and how it can take your focus and things of that nature when you just put money first. But I think it's a great deal. I think they'll tweak it a little bit, and it'll be fine tuned just right. But I think it's good for the kids, right now. Tennessee, playing with Peyton Manning, going in as a freshman and actually playing with Peyton, and learning from Peyton, being able to go in and play as a freshman, that was a great, it was a great thing. In playing with a great quarterback like Peyton, and just being taught by somebody like him. Probably, you probably knew he was going to be great, in the NFL, but at the time when he's a senior in college, just how I can remember one story with David Cutcliffe. I remember David Cutcliffe came to me, and he said, after practice, when I was a freshman, I wasn't playing yet, and he came to me and said, "Hey, you can't play for me." And I was like, why? And he said, because you're not a practice player. And I'm like, you're right. I'm a gamer. That was just young, cocky 17-year-old Jamal at the time. But he told me, he said, "Hey, when you come out here tomorrow," he said, "I want you to watch number 16 practice." And I did it. And I watched Peyton practice from the start of practice to the end of practice, every single rep, when the whistle when between the whistles, he was 100 miles an hour. Everything he looked just like he was in a game. And from that day forth, that's when I said, you know what, this is how I'm gonna approach this. And that's how I practice, from there on, as far as 100 miles an hour, making sure everything is right. Nothing different than you would do in the game. The only thing is the contact, or whatever, but I'm running through the line 100 miles an hour, picking up my blitzes, whatever it might be. But that was something that I pulled and learned from somebody like Peyton that really helped me get drafted where I did, sustain a 10-year career as a starter, the whole time. So that was because you wouldn't outwork me. And in practice, you wasn't going to outwork me in practice, because if a coach watches me on film, I'm giving 100%, so, and that's effort. And I also got a little bit of talent. So, I will win that battle every time. But then the next year going to the championship, and being injured, I felt like my purpose was served that year. I played through 3 or 4 games of that season, and got us through that. But we had a young quarterback, so a lot was leaning on my shoulders, coming in, and kind of got T warmed up and ready to go. And when I got injured, I think that it really helped the team more than it hurt, because guess what? Everybody had to pull together, and they did pull together, and went on to go undefeated and win a national championship. So I respect that championship. That was my championship, but I don't feel like it was. And luckily, I got a chance to go on to the league and win a Super Bowl my rookie year. So that was more pleasing. But at Tennessee, it's a great school, great atmosphere. Coach Former was a great coach. played with a lot of great players. And, coming from the SEC to the pros, honestly, it was no different. The speed is there, the size is there. And, week in and week out playing in the SEC, it was not a gimme game. I don't care if you was going to play Vanderbilt, Kentucky, or whoever was the low man on the totem pole in the SEC at the time, you still had to bring it because you could lose any given Saturday in the SEC. So it prepares you, and I think that now, the SEC is strong, but with so much talent out there, so much visibility, so the training now is so different now. So you have a lot of talent all around the country. The SEC can't get them all. So you have the Big Ten, the Pac-10. You have all these different conferences now that, hey, they can go, but the SEC is just different. It's just different, and I'm happy I chose to go to the SEC and chose to go to Tennessee, and it was a great time.
Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially the speed of practice. I went to a few Redskins practice back in the day, and it was like Donovan McNabb, and I think it was the early days of Shanahan. And it didn't look very game speed to me. Like, it was kind of early in training camp, but yeah, I think that never having played a down football, but just as a fan, but that moving at that game speed just seems like it makes a lot of sense. And that, so then when you're in a game, you're going at the same speed. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. And again,
and the biggest thing is, in the pros is you're not doing a lot of contact and hitting. So you're practicing in shorts a lot of times and shoulder pads maybe. But I can remember the first carry that I got in practice, and I hit it. I ran my track, and I just went downhill, and I just ran to the ass of one of my linemen, and I hit the ground. Basically, the starting back when I got there, and he said, "Priest, show him, show him how it's done." And Priest went in there and just shoot, and just went right through there. And I was like, damn, how did he do that? And he came back and he said, hey, just run it. He said, run it. He said, run your tracks and go where it's supposed to be. And after that, I just started doing that, and you'd be surprised, it worked. So Priest Holmes was a good tutor of mine as well, who went on to be a great back. But it's having guys like that you play with and you get a chance to talk to and learn from. It's having guys like that make you a strong player. Because I can remember the fourth game of the season when I took over as a starter. I was walking into the locker room, and the first person that greeted me walking into the locker room was Priest Holmes. And he walked up to me, put his hand out, shook my hand. He said, hey, it's yours. He said, anything you need from me? He said, I got you. He said, I'm here to help and help you be the best running back you can be. And I did the same thing for the guys that came behind me and under me my whole career because of players like that,
Yeah, that's some impressive professionalism. Yeah. Thanks again for doing this. This is great. Thank you.
Hey, no problem, dude.
And Jamal, I think you said you had a minimum 10 concussions and you went unconscious like 2 or 3 times. You had some explosive collisions as a running back. I mean, you're delivering the blow, you're absorbing a ton. I mean, think of it, those Titans teams, those Steeler teams.
Oh.
Is there one collision that still rings in your head a little bit to this day, or that you still remember more than any other?
And I can tell you, and I always bring this up. They said, who delivered the hardest hit to you in your career? And I can remember playing against the Redskins, and I got a carry, and I saw the hole just open up wide as day, and I hit it. I put my foot in the ground and just got downhill. And as soon as I got through the hole, somebody just came out of nowhere and just smacked me. And when I got back to the huddle, I said, who in the hell was that? And Jonathan Ogden said, oh, that was the rookie, Sean Taylor. And I was like, damn, I said, he's a rookie. And he came in and just kissed me right in my face mask. And I knew he was going to be a great player, rest in peace. But that might have been the hardest hit. And the second one would probably be Al Wilson, who was my old roommate in college. He got me in Denver one time, and I know my bell was rung, and I got up, went to the huddle, and Steve McNair was looking at me, and he was like, he said, Jay, you okay? And I was just like, I was just like, yeah, like, And next thing you know, he put his hand up and told the coach, hey, come get him. So I walked off the field because my bell was still ringing, but I tried to deliver most of the blows, but I can remember guys saying, hey, man, you need to start getting out of bounds. You need to start getting out of bounds. And I'm like, for what? My dad always told me, hey, man, deliver the blow, get them before they get you. And that was really my mentality. Where I grew up in Adamsville and the way football was, especially as a kid, listen, you better bring it or you're going to get it brought to you, and you don't want it that way. So that was my mentality.
You took me back to your fields, right? We walked around on your old practice field at Adamsville, I think.
Oh yeah. That was the spot, man. And I think about it every time I talk about it. I see that same spot that we was standing at, and we walked around. But it was just, hey, man, and you notice it wasn't too much grass, so it was a lot of dirt and glass and stuff like that was on the ground at the time. So you did not want to fall on the ground. So that was another thing. So everybody said, why are you so fast? Choppy steps. I got choppy steps because I'm used to running on dirt. So it's not nice.
Yeah, that's right. You had those choppy steps. That was your style. Yeah.
You got to keep your feet up under you, If you're running on dirt, you'll slip and slide. So yeah, but brought me where I am right now. I just went to go speak to my old high school and talk to a lot of kids, some of the kids that's there that are being recruited and, getting offers and things of that nature. And just, talking to them. And man, it just took me back, to when I was at the old high school and going through it. And I told one kid there, I can't remember his name, but he's highly recruited and got offers from everywhere. And when I saw him, I was just like, man, I remember, I'm like, you're in the 10th grade and you got all these offers. And I said, I can remember that time. I said, but the thing that you have against you is time, because you got 2 more years in high school, and growing up where I grew up, and in that area, it is the smallest is a margin of error that you can hit, just because of the environment, and the people that you're around. So that was it was eye opening. And I just told him, I said, hey man, just keep your head on right and stay focused. You got 2 years. Only thing you can do is just keep getting better and keep working, and hopefully they listen or whatever. But you see a lot of guys that go through and they just don't make it,
I mean, God, that's such a great point, Jamal, because when Damar Hamlin basically dies on a football field and is brought back to life, I think we're all trying to reconcile the violence of pro football. I mean, we all love it. I mean, if it's flag, we're not watching. If they make this touch football, nobody's going to tune in. It's the violence. I mean, we tune in because these are the modern day gladiators. And the way I kind of, I guess, rationalized it in my head is, I thought back to us walking around Adamsville, and you opened up on where you came from and why you would do it all over again. How much good football did for you, because Damar Hamlin's similar case. He's from McKees Rocks. More than half of the kids he grew up with are dead or in jail. He's like, this game pulled me out of this area and brought me so much good, brought my family so much good. I guess that's how I was able to kind of move on in my mind through that Damar Hamlin stuff. And, anytime a player is just motionless on the dirt, this game is special because there's so many Damar Hamlins and Jamal Lewises that come from really rough places and shit. It's like football just it did so much good for you and everybody
Yeah.
around you. I'm guessing you would
Mhm.
still do it all over again. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that kind of how you reconcile the violence of the sport yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah, most definitely. You know, a lot of guys that play football, I didn't really know how crazy I was until probably 2 or 3 years after I retired, and after really looking at the sport and just how violent it really is. But yeah, I would do it all over again. My whole thing was, how was I going to get out of my environment? How was I going to be a change? How was I going to be different, and be the success story, and make it out? And you got to have an avenue. You got to have a foundation. You got to have something that's going to take you there. And for a lot of inner city areas, it's football. It's football or it's basketball or something like that. And one thing it does is it keeps you out of trouble, keeps you busy or whatever. But at the same time, you still have to go home. You still have to go to school. You still have to go, and have a social life. So it's really guarding, the bad things that can creep in. But I just feel like, what happened to Jamar Hamlin, you get a lot of guys out here that go, hey, man, I'll die for this. I'll die for this. Let's go out here and ride, when they're playing, that's just your mentality.
Yeah.
But when that happened to DeMar, it's like, wow, this is real. This is real. But I bet you one thing: if everything worked out right, and he just miraculously just came to be and is totally healthy, he put the helmet on the next week if he had to. And I know it for a fact because I know I got knocked out, in Cleveland, in 2009, and I knew something was wrong. But guess what? I had a young running back behind me that was breathing down my neck, and hey, I had to get in there and state my claim and hold on to my position. So it's a fight, and it's one of those things where hey, look, this is what I do, this is what I love. And hey, man, look, I know the consequences, and hey, this is my life, and this is what I love. So, it's just that piece of it. You're a fighter, and that's why I said, that's the love of the game. When you take the money out of it, it's the love of the game, And I knew that when my routine changed and going into a game, I wasn't the same. And I was just like Saragusa, standing around my locker, just waiting, like it's just another day. I knew that it was time to hang up the cleats. But I see these kids like I saw yesterday at my high school, or go to a little league football game. These kids, this is their outlet. A lot of these kids, this is their outlet, in how they escape, mental illness, childhood trauma, things that they're going through at home. And I'm one of those kids, that dealt with that, and it was more of, hey, my mom and dad getting into it, or it's just those life situations that happen. But my outlet was on the football field and just letting it all out and going crazy. So that's a lot of kids, that's a lot of kids' outlet today,
I mean, in that Browns collision that you talked, that's when you were unconscious. You were just out cold for a while, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 And it's just crazy because you're out and you can see what's going on around you, but you can't move. Or it's just like, I'm just not, I'm here, but I'm not here, and then it comes back. And the thing about it was I went to the sideline and came back in 2 plays later. And it was just survival then. It was, hey, take the ball and find a place to lay down. That was the thing. But
But you didn't know
but at the
everything you
same
knew about
time,
concussions then, too. The awareness wasn't there, right? Like,
no, it wasn't there. You didn't know. It was just, hey, I got my bell rung. They had the you had the stuff, the smelling sauce with the ammonia, really, just putting it on your nose or whatever, and like, hey, let's go, or whatever. But man, it's just it's tough, it's tough, and it's just it's just one of them things where when you love to do it and it's your lifestyle and you train for it, and this is what feed the family, and like I said, you got 70,000 fans screaming your name, cheering for you, and things of that nature. It's hard to give that up.
Hey, that's the beauty of America, right? It's a free country. You've got the free will to play, to not play. Even like with Tua Tagovailoa and all of his concussions, and it's kind of scary. I mean, what a horrifying scene that was. But if he wants to play, he's doing the jiu-jitsu stuff right now. Who are we to tell him? I mean, you need people to protect you from yourself. I get all that, but for all the reasons that you just kind of laid out, football is a beautiful game that can do a lot of good. If you want to play, then you know the risk involved, play. It's your right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. That's it, man. I think that Tua, with him and his issue there, it's just, they make it safe for the quarterbacks, but nowadays, it is safe for a quarterback, but it's safe for a stand-up quarterback, pocket guy. It's not that safe for a Lamar Jackson or Tua that's going to get out of that pocket, that's going to scramble and run. And if you look at it, half the time that they get their bell rung or something like that, it's when they scramble or they're out of that pocket. It's not that hit that they're taking standing up back there in the pocket. So it's just being more safe and taking care of yourself. That's pretty much it. But hey, when you're out there, hey, things move so fast. It's hard to take care of yourself.
Definitely. Man, I don't want to, keep monopolizing here. Before we lose Jamal, do you guys have anything else for him here?
I was gonna this is cool to be able to ask questions, Jamal. You were talking about Steve McNair. What was it like? You talking about guys getting out of the pocket? It was amazing what a warrior he was on the field. Maybe just maybe talk about what it was like to play with him a little bit. That he was such an impressive player.
Oh yeah, he was a great guy, great quarterback. And being at the Ravens, we had a few quarterbacks. I played with a lot of quarterbacks, but he was the one that came in and he was just throwing dimes. Just he put it out there. I'm like, wow, he actually completed that pass. Like the receiver actually caught that ball, and it took a lot of pressure off me because we was known as a running football team, but when you have a guy like Steve, where he's going to complete that pass, or whatever. So we're going to march the ball down the field. But he was just a warrior, man. He didn't run as much, but I played against him at Tennessee when he was running a lot and making plays, and he was just a beast. I saw him play at Alcorn State when he was in college his last year. I saw him play once as well, and he had a big ball. He's a great person, great guy. He was a great teammate. I wish I could have played with him that last year because I think we could have went far. Just because having a good quarterback and my style of play and as a runner or whatever. But he was just a great, humble guy, man. He was a professional, and sad to see that he lost his life, the way he did. But he touched a lot of people, and he was a great quarterback, just a great player, great professional. So speak highly of him. He's a great dude.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Are you good today? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. So I was wondering during your 2,000-yard season, at what point during the season did you say, "Hey, I think I can do this"? And did you start feeling pressure, or was it more like, "This is inevitable, man. I'm just feeling it. I've got it, and this is going to happen"? How did that? When did you feel like I had a chance, and did you really feel a lot of pressure as you were getting closer? Did you just like, "I'm going to get this done"?
Well, the crazy part about it was that year when I was training in the off season, me and my trainer, that's all we talked about was 2,000 yards, 2,000 yards, 2,000 yards. And how do you get 2,000 yards? You got to break some long runs early in some games and get those long runs and get your regular games as well, right? And I think that first game, I had about 53 yards, 56 yards against the Steelers. Then come back the next week against the Browns, and I got 295 yards. So in 2 games, I had, over 300 and something yards, 350, 360 something yards, right? In 2 games. So only thing we had to do is just keep churning, right? Keep churning. And, we was going out there, we was getting 150 yards, 120 yards, 150, just racking it up. And I think that when Kyle Bola got hurt, coach called me into the office and he said, hey, you're going to have to take 25, 30 carries a game. And, Anthony Wright, he's going to have to run it a little bit. And this is just what we're going to have to do. And me, as the runner that I am, I'm like, great, let's go, feed me. And the thing was, we knew that we was going to get those 25, 30 carries. So it was like, hey, we're going to get the opportunities. We just got to make sure that we execute. And my offensive line, they was all for it. And I think, by the mid-season, that's when the numbers start coming up and people start saying, oh, you need to average this a game in order to get 2,000 yards. And I'm not a numbers guy, so I never really looked at the numbers, but I can tell you when it got down to those last 2 games, I was very nervous, and I didn't care about the 2,000 yards, but I really did care, because everybody else cared, But my offensive line, that's who needed to really care. So they cared enough to open those holes up, man. And my fullback, Alan Ricard, at the time, he was blowing it up and leading me up through there. And man, we just maximized, and honestly, the strength of that offensive line was Edwin Mulatalo and Jonathan Ogden on the left side. So if you watch, a lot of our plays went right and cut back left. And that was mainly because they would hold that backside. And by the time I stretch it, the hole was so wide, I just had to get back to it, But I would say by mid-season, that's when the numbers started adding up. And we kind of knew that we could actually hit it. And I didn't want to go into the Pittsburgh Steelers game needing 160, 100 and something yards to break the record. Just because it's the Steelers, and I've never had 160 yards against them. But we did get over 2,000 and got to 2,066. I thought when we went into overtime that coach was going to keep riding me, but he said, "Hey, look, we got to go to the playoffs, so we need you healthy." So I respected that, and now I'm third on the list. So thanks to Adrian Peterson.
Awesome. I appreciate that. That was great insight. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
If I can add on that, Jamal, I was 14 or 15 years old. I don't think I ever told you this, but you won me a fantasy football championship with a bunch of adults that year. So I was in my dad's league as a little kid, but I had Jamal Lewis, baby. You rode me to a title, so thank you.
Hey, that's what's up. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I remember that. Was it like Steelers last game, 13-10, and you're right, you could have gotten the ball even more now that I think about it.
Yeah, I could have got the ball a little more, and then we just kicked that field goal. We actually completed a pass across the middle I'm like, we complete a pass now, to set us up for a field goal. And I was like, dang. But hey, look, it was all good. But I can tell you this, when I got to the playoff game, I was out of gas. I can tell you that. I didn't have no more in the tank. And the Titans were locking me down like Deion Sanders out on the island. I can tell you that.
And my brother Austin's on here too. So I think I took him down that. Were you in the league yet, Austin? Did you want to chime in?
No, You just stole my thunder there. I was actually looking at your squad. The website still goes back to 2003 there, and I'd never asked you. When you did the story with Jamal there back in the day, I never asked you if you personally thanked him for beating everybody in our family league. So I'm glad you thanked him. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the roster. You single-handedly won him the league. So thanks.
Who else did I have on that squad? Anybody? Was Kyle Bowler my quarterback? Probably.
Surprisingly, you had Dominic Davis on your team. I felt like I had him on my team every year, but now you did have him on Green. I guess that was his big year. He had a big year that year too. But
that's right. He did.
Oh, Tyler Dunn know how to pick him, huh? Know how to.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for doing this, Jamal. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Austin.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. This was great, Jamal. I mean, I didn't even ask you. You're good today. How are you feeling? I'm sure after we did that story a few years back, you probably heard from some loved ones, some friends, health-wise, with just those darker thoughts you might have had at some point. Are you still kind of able to kind of ward those off, stay busy, stay immersed in your family, all of that we got into?
Yeah, that's the big thing, man, is just staying busy, staying busy. Sometimes you do get, those times when you just, down, or you just don't, especially on the depression side or whatever. But, I know how to cope, I know how to get through it. Like I said before, I don't have a problem talking to nobody about an issue or whatever. That's one good thing. And that's one thing I told the kids yesterday is, you got a problem, talk to somebody about it. Don't hold it in, because that deteriorates you even faster, especially on the depression side or whatever. But man, I'm feeling good. I can't complain, man. I appreciate you. You check in on me and reach out every now and then, and that's what's important. That people actually care, or you got real people around you. And that's good. I appreciate you.
Oh my God, that's the least, man. It was just great getting to know you, hang out with you, have a couple Sweetwater IPAs while we're at it too. So next time I'm in Atlanta, well, we're gonna have to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And my guys at the Big Catch,
that's right. Your buddy there, he was a good dude.
Yeah, you went to some of my main spots, Buttermilk Kitchen. Which is still there, chef, man. They're making it happen. I stayed out of there, so I lost about 20 pounds. So that's a plus. Wow. So now I just go every now and then. I can't go every morning like I used to.
That's right. You said Shannon Sharp was giving you hell when he saw you, right? Like he was giving it to you.
Always. He always tell me that I need to get in the gym. I don't think I'll ever be fit for him. So, especially the way he looks.
Shit, you're a dad. Come on now, dad bods. What are you gonna? You're too busy raising kids. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, right, man. I gotta eat. I eat the leftovers, the snacks, and the stuff that they leave over at the house. So, and they're all getting older, man. My Jazz, is running track and playing football now, and he's in the 7th grade now. And then my daughter, Ivana, she's 14 now, so she's doing her thing, and everybody's doing well, man. They're just growing up and growing fast, and got a bunch of teenagers to run around.
Hey, man, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us for an hour, Jamal. That was unbelievable. You're the man. Greatly appreciate it, and yeah, I'll definitely let you know when I'm down there for sure.
Hey, yeah, no problem, man. Like I said, anytime, brother. Anytime, just let me know. We can chat it up.
Yeah. Thanks.
Got
Jamal.
it. Hey, thanks so much.
Pleasure.
All right, now you guys have a good one. Enjoy the weekend.
Okay, you too.
You too.
You got it.
All right, bye.
Yep.
See ya.